notice, like, the game doesn't pause and hitch, and you don't drop frames when people connect in and out of you, but you do see them teleport around and do weird things like players in MMO usually do when you watch them walk around.
Right.
But also the whole, like, concept, like, driving around roads with your friends doesn't really, like, evoke the same spirit of camaraderie and fantasy and even, like, tactical like, tactics and cooperation that, like, multiplayer dungeon crawling or shooting does. And it's like, it's just...
You're in a car.
Yeah, and the three of you race against 12 AI opponents, and as long as one of you gets in first, that's the idea why they want to encourage co-op players, is because if one person wins, then you can split the rewards with the other players, which would increase your chance of, you know, beating the race and finishing the mission and continuing on the stupid story that the game's telling you.
Okay.
But it also, it doesn't, like, fundamentally really change the game any differently. Like, you still just kind of go from A to B.
Isn't it a little bit harder with the rubber band AI?
Yeah, that's actually a real problem. If you try to play with people who are better at racing games than you, it just makes, like, your baseline level of challenge harder because the AI will adjust to them. Like, I was doing a 2-hour cross-country race. It's really cool how the map is designed. One of the things I like about it is how the map is designed, not how it actually looks or plays. But it's designed to look like the United States. And so there are, like, really, really long endurance races that last for, like, 2 hours at a time that go from, like, Miami to LA to New York. And there's one really cool one that actually drills an entire perimeter around the whole US. And throughout most of that race, I was in second to last place. Because most of the other racers were stuck on the other guy I was playing with, who was way better. And if he had put significant amounts of distance between him and the AI racers, they would just get, like, caught in a void and maybe, like, stick to me or him or something. They just, like, rubber band towards players instead of kind of following a preset route or something.
That seems so outdated.
It does. It's really weird how this...
I'm used to playing Forza, and from what I've played from Forza, they have, like, these Dravatars that, you know, they're constantly they'll make mistakes like humans, because when you're driving and you're making mistakes along, it, like, creates this, like, file of what you do while you're racing, and it gets sent into the cloud. And, like, it's really weird to actually see that happening while you're racing. So, I don't know, when they have, like, technology like this, like, I don't know, like Crew could have came up with something.
They could have. It's just that the AI plays by entirely different rules and drives entirely different cars than any of the real players do.
Of course.
Like, it's obvious. You can smash them in a high-speed chase. You can nudge them onto oncoming traffic, you know, like you're supposed to do.
Right.
But it won't really do anything to them. They can do the same thing to you, and it will stop you dead in your tracks and cause you to lose, like, 10 seconds trying to recover from that crash. But they'll, like they will visibly hit an obstacle and recover. They will just, like, slide into place, sometimes comically so. Like, have you guys ever seen that YouTube video called Late for Meeting, where a naked Gorad shaded model is like glitching around the street? And he gets in a car that skids parallel to the road down the road. I have seen that happen in the Crew. I have seen the AI cars race me while their cars were pointed away from the road. Like,
wow, man.
Like, just like rectangles sliding.
This is a
across
AAA
the
game? Right?
I can't tell. It's really weird. Like, was it heavily marketed and advertised? I think it was. Like, they had a big presence during the past two E3s, but it looks cheap. Like, it looks really, really cheap. It's a huge map. I mean, it's quantity over quality. They couldn't make all of this giant USA map look good, but if you just any given screenshot of the game looks 5 years behind the curve. Like, I was watching footage of Drive Club the day I started playing it, and I was like, wow, I bet these next-gen racing games are going to look really good, because, you know, the advantage with rendering a racing game is that you're not rendering real people. There's a lot less uncanny valley to deal with. Like, even Gran Turismo 4 on the PS2 is a really, really good-looking game.
Right, because cars are defined shapes that don't, like, I mean, unless you're doing Burnout where you want everything to, like, wreck and, like, realistically bend, it's like, it's a shape.
They don't animate very vividly.
Right,
Even
it's wheels.
In reality, they are inanimate inanimate objects.
Yeah.
So if you see a really nice CG car, it can more easily fool you. But
What
not
about
in
the
the crew.
human stands in Gran Turismo? I'm such a fan of those pixelated
man.
people that are reprinted over and over again, and they're like yelling. Ah!
They got to make a compromise somehow. And in the
Somewhere.
crew,
I've always loved how every developer tries to do like the big crowd in a sports game differently, because some of them are like, let's put flat gifs and make those loop, and then you like easily like it swoops over the crowd and you see that they're all 2D and you're like, this is stupid. And then some people are like, let's make them real models, and the crowd consists of like 10 people in the entire arena.
and they look like they're made out of Legos.
Right, and their animations are like they have no fucking clue what's going on. It's like what they look like. They're like, yeah, go somebody. Like that's like, I don't know. I always found that really funny.
Yeah.
The crew is so weird though, because the game as a whole, the geometry, the environment, all look 5 years behind the curve.
Great.
But it has an amazing road texture.
Okay.
It has like every bump on the road parallax mapped. And like when you're driving into the sunset and it's like glaring into the bumps and the nudges on every little speck of concrete, it's a beautiful texture with like the most absolutely low poly, rush, cheap looking environment around that.
I mean, I think that's a metaphor, George, to keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah, because I also think they intended players to speed past all the bad-looking stuff. But when you have an open-world sandbox game on a map this big, where the central hook is like comparing it to places you might have actually been in real life, I don't get how they expect players to just gloss over the bad-looking scenery.
Is it weird that I can't get over the fact that it's the whole United States and you don't see one living person walking outside?
Oh no, they're pedestrians.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Can you run them over like cruising
No,
USA?
they do it's driver style. They always dodge at the last minute, even if they clip through your car in the process.
Of course.
Yeah. No, I like that actually. I prefer that in
Instead of
a lot of games.
run them over ragdoll effects.
Yeah, but Grand Theft Auto has a dark tone, and most racing games want to have a light tone. So like have guys comically dodge, and you can laugh at the silliness. Like in Driver San Francisco, that's how it worked. And a lot of commenters are angry at me for picking on the story. But the reason I did that, like, I had way lower standards for racing game stories until I played Driver San Francisco. Are you guys familiar with Driver San Francisco?
No, not at all.
You play as a ghost cop who fights crime by possessing people's cars, and it's actually really well written.
Oh snap! I think I've played the demo for that, and I never picked it up. This was a long time ago.
And it's 2011 I think is when it came out. I don't know for sure though. It might have been 9 or 10, but it's amazing how they took a really weird, outrageous gameplay mechanic, which is swooping out of your car to pick and choose any other car driving around the sandbox. So that way, if you miss a turn, you can swoop out of your car and pick another car that is already turning into that turn.
Okay.
And they actually wrote a story around that feature.
Oh man, I mean, like you're saying it's good.
It's
So that's
amazing, actually,
interesting.
because it does not take itself seriously at all. They joke about it.
Oh,
Like, the
boy.
characters, they break the fourth wall. They joke about how silly the game and the mechanic is, and they actually end up creating really likable characters because of that. And you end up caring about what happens to them just because you really appreciate their sense of humor.
Oh, boy.
2011 it came out. Oh, and it ran in 60 FPS. Wow.
I highly recommend it. It is one of the funniest, funnest games I've played in last gen. It is the Bayonetta of driving games.
That's
in terms
a
of like
weird statement.
outrageous, over-the-top, self-aware styling. It does that.
Great. I mean, I'm not gonna promise I'm gonna pick it up because I still have a billion more games to play.
That
but
backlog though.
sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
That backlog.
it's
that Steam
definitely
sale
interesting.
backlog.
Because it's also like a super, like, quote-unquote AAA mainstream conventional title.
Oh,
Like, you
man.
can tell just by looking at the cover art, and a million different game company logos start up at the beginning, and it's about a ghost cop who fights crime by possessing people's cars, and you like help people out with their problems. Like, there's a kid who's failing his driver's license test, so you like possess him for a minute and help him out.
Oh, please.
There's like
Oh,
a
boy.
salesman who can't sell cars to people, so you possess the salesman and make him do some wacky tricks that impress the customers.
Uh-huh.
It's like Elite Beat Agents, but in
Yeah.
racing game.